3 weeks of deafness changed my life forever. Not because I lost my hearing. Oh no, that was the relaxing bit. It's because I got it back. Turns out silence is golden, and hearing is, well, let's just say it comes with baggage. When you can't hear, people think they've got diplomatic immunity. They'll say absolutely anything, my daughter included. And let me tell you, what I overheard when I finally got home made me wish I'd stayed blissfully deaf. But also silver lining. It gave me the perfect chance for revenge. Which, honestly, is the only perk of being alive long enough to have grown children. Anyway, before we get to the juicy betrayal and the sort of karmic vengeance Shakespeare would have written if he'd been more petty, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment about where you're listening from. Because nothing says meaningful human connection quite like typing Liverpool into a YouTube box. Now picture this. 3 weeks of silence. Absolute, crushing, neighbor's dog-proof silence. Then, suddenly, the steady beep of a heart monitor. You'd think it was a bloody symphony. Honestly, I nearly cried listening to that thing. Mozart? Bach? Forget it. Give me a Philips heart start and a working set of eardrums. I pressed my palm to my chest like I was conducting an orchestra of one. Mr. Brooks, Dr. Chin said, as clear as BBC Radio 4 on a Sunday. Can you hear me now? I nodded. God forbid I spoke, in case words shattered this fragile miracle. The hearing test headphones still clamped my skull, piping in beeps like a sadistic video game. But I heard every single one. Every tone. Every whisper. Every slightly awkward exhalation from the doctor's nose. Marvelous. Truly marvelous. When I finally whispered it's back, my voice sounded like, well, like me. Which was shocking, because in my head I was Brad Pitt. Dr. Chin smiled politely, the way only doctors can when they've seen 30 people cry over basic bodily functions returning. She scribbled on her tablet. And let me tell you, the scratch of a stylus on glass is criminally underrated. The inflammation's gone. Hearing normal across all frequencies. Translation. Congratulations, you get to rejoin the chaos of humanity. No refunds. See, 3 weeks earlier, a pneumatic drill had staged a full-on assault on my eardrum. Not the beam that nearly took my head off. Mind you, no. I survived the falling metal. I was defeated by shoddy equipment and a bloke called Gary who swore he'd read the manual. Deaf as a post, they said. Maybe permanent. The NHS's favorite word. Maybe. But now, now the world was a bloody theme park of noise. Elevator dings, footsteps, doors whooshing like low-budget sci-fi. Glorious. And I thought Jessie, my daughter, she's going to be thrilled. She's been so good moving back in to take care of me. Honestly, Florence Nightingale with an iPhone. My heart warmed at the thought of her reaction. I need to call my daughter, I told Dr. Chin, reaching for my phone. Let's do your discharge papers first, she said, very sensibly. Because heaven forbid I run home without scheduling a follow-up appointment for 3 months later that I will, of course, forget. The nurse gave me the usual spiel about taking it easy. Your brain needs time to readjust. Lovely sentiment. Except my brain had adjusted just fine. It was my heart that was about to get sucker punched. I left the hospital like a man reborn. Even the elevator buttons, click, was like a private concert. My Honda Civic was waiting exactly where Jessie had left it. Reliable beige, about as inspiring as wet toast, but oh, the sound of that engine. Better than Beethoven. On the drive home, I rediscovered just how obnoxiously loud the world is. Brakes squealing, children screaming, dogs barking at absolutely nothing. Beautiful chaos. I soaked it in like someone who's just been paroled. Pulling into my driveway, I spotted Jessie's car. Excellent. She'd probably be inside, whipping up dinner, bless her. I imagined calling her name, hearing her gasp, maybe even a tear or two. Perfect sitcom moment. Father and daughter, reunited by sound. Cue canned applause. Instead I got the plot twist nobody ordered. But of course, they weren't finished. Villains never are they? Always one more line, one more monologue. Think he suspects anything? Chris asked. No, Chris. I'm a deaf, doddering fool, apparently incapable of stringing two thoughts together without help. A man who thinks Zoom is still a children's TV program. Jesse's reply was casual, cruel, and dripping with a kind of contempt only family can perfect. Are you kidding? He can't hear a thing. Poor old man just sits there nodding and smiling while I write him notes. It's actually kind of pathetic. Yes, my daughter. The same child I once held in my arms, rocking her to sleep, now mocking my Oscar-worthy performance as confused old codger, the silent years. Truly, parenting pays off eventually. And those notes she'd written me over the past 3 weeks? Those heartfelt scribbles? Turns out they were less heartfelt and more scripted improv from someone who failed out of amateur theater. So I decided I'd test them. If they wanted a show, I'd give them one. The doddering dad, grateful and confused. Oh, they were about to get the performance of a lifetime. I took a deep breath and shuffled into the kitchen, deliberately making my footsteps heavy, like someone who wasn't sure which foot went first. Jesse and Chris were at the table, and the transformation was instant. You'd think I'd walked in on the West End production of Daughter of the Year. Dad. Jessie gasped, practically launching herself across the room. Her face, pure panic mixed with syrup. She clutched my arm like I was made of porcelain. How are you feeling? You look tired. Amazing. 60 seconds ago, I was the old burden. Now, I was the delicate flower of Surrey. Chris piped up too, raising his voice as though volume alone could penetrate my allegedly useless ears. Hey there, Thomas. How did the appointment go? Bless him. Nothing says kindly future son-in-law like shouting at a man who's standing 2 feet away. I shrugged, pointed at my ears, and looked confused. Jessie pounced on the notepad, writing, Doctor says hearing might return soon. That's wonderful news. I let my eyes widen like a child, discovering Father Christmas was real. Inside, I wanted to vomit. But outside? 5-star review. Chris leaned forward, adding his bit. Maybe we should look into care options for when you're stronger. Just temporary. Temporary. Of course. Like when your mate temporarily borrows your lawnmower and you never see it again. Jessie scribbled beneath, just so you have help with medications and therapy. Nothing permanent. Oh, marvelous. A temporary arrangement. Just until I withered enough to justify the permanent one. How thoughtful. I nodded along like a docile puppy. Inside, I was taking notes of my own. Every fake smile. Every squeeze of my shoulder that screamed, you're almost worth inheriting from. For several minutes, I played the role of grateful halfwit. Nodding, smiling, even writing tired, going to rest on the notepad. Academy Award material. Jessie hugged me then. A hug so empty it might as well have come from a wax figure at Madame Tussauds. I dragged myself up the stairs, slowly, deliberately, my hand gripping the banister. Behind me, Chris's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. He bought it completely. Yes, Chris. Hook, line, and sinker. What an honor to be underestimated so thoroughly. In my bedroom, the one Margaret and I had shared for 30 years, I sat down on the bed and tried to breathe through the rage. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a cage. And my darling daughter? Suddenly less Florence Nightingale, more Lady Macbeth, without the charm. On my nightstand was a photo. Jessie on graduation day, her arm around me, both of us grinning like idiots. That girl was gone, replaced by a stranger in her skin. Margaret's wedding ring sat in its dish. I picked it up, trembling. She always twisted it when she was thinking. She would have known what to do. She always did. Me? I was left with a crumbling heart and front row tickets to my own betrayal. Downstairs, the plotting continued. My house, my future, my very sanity, all fair game. Sunset Manor is £4,800 monthly, Chris said. But Medicare covers most if we get the right medical evaluations. Oh, splendid. Nothing like using the healthcare system as a weapon. The realtor says we could get £470,000 for this place, Jessie chimed in. After the mortgage payoff, that leaves us £320,000 for the Whitefish house. Yes, the house I built my life in, reduced to a down payment for their suburban dream. Timeline? 2 months, tops. But they needed evidence first. A few staged incidents. Some falsified memory lapses. And apparently Dr. Henderson, that paragon of medical integrity, owed Chris a favor. A Camaro, no less. My sanity traded in for a bloody car. I gripped the banister so tightly my knuckles went white. They weren't just planning to ship me off. They were planning to erase me. Then Jesse's footsteps. Coming upstairs. I should check on him, make sure he's not suspicious. I scrambled back to bed, arranging myself like a corpse with a pulse. Years of watching over Margaret had taught me how to fake sleep. My breathing slow even. She entered, carrying tea. Her face plastered with concern so thick you could have spread it on toast. She set the mug down right beside Margaret's ring dish. The symbolism was as subtle as a brick to the head. "You looked tired earlier," she cooed. "Are you feeling okay?" I nodded, reached for the notepad, and wrote, "Thank you. You're so good to me." The words tasted like battery acid. But Jessie smiled. Oh, how she smiled. A smile so wide you'd think she'd just won the lottery. Which, technically, she had. "Rest as much as you need, Dad. Chris and I are taking care of everything." Translation. Lie down quietly while we auction off your life on Rightmove. I stayed still, listening to her footsteps fade. Then, like clockwork, came her voice drifting back to Chris. He's completely clueless, just like we planned. Drinking his tea like a good little patient. Yes. The good little patient. Sit. Stay. Don't drool on the carpet. Honestly, I've had more dignity at the dentist. Chris chuckled. Perfect. Maybe we should accelerate the timeline. Why wait 2 months? Henderson could do the evaluation next week. We'll just say he's been wandering, confused, leaving the stove on. Standard dementia stuff. Because why bother with originality when you can just recycle cliches from a care home brochure? Jessie paused. That could work if we document a few more incidents. Document. I love how they say it like they're running a scientific trial instead of casually manufacturing my insanity. Brilliant. By the end of the month, I'd apparently be drooling into a bib while they measured curtains for their new house. I stared at the ceiling, rage simmering under my ribs. They thought I was finished, a deaf, doddering relic who'd gratefully shuffle off to Sunset Manor. But here's the twist. Every poisonous word was being carefully filed away in my brain. I reached into my wallet and pulled out a business card. Robert Henley, solicitor, old friend of Margaret's estate. Also, the only man alive who still thinks a fountain pen is intimidating. Tomorrow I'd call Bob. Tonight? Tonight I'd listen. They wanted to play games with my life. Fine. But they were about to learn what happens when you give an old man nothing left to lose. Spoiler, it's not bingo night. I went into my study, the same room I'd balanced our family finances for 30 years. Pulled out folders, drawers, records. My life reduced to neat piles of paper, each one a receipt for sacrifices made. Jessie's wedding, £35,000. A fairy tale affair that emptied half my retirement fund. Make it perfect, Dad. Mom would want everything beautiful. Yes, and Dad would want to retire before death, but who cares about Dad? Student loans, £28,000. I remember Jessie sobbing at 20, terrified she couldn't finish school. I paid. I worked extra shifts. I canceled a holiday I desperately needed. But she got the degree. And apparently, I got the invoice stamped, sucker for life. Apartment deposit, £15,000. Another temporary favor. Another permanent hole in my savings. Then Margaret's medical bills. £67,000. Money I paid while Jessie found excuses to stay away. I can't handle seeing her like this, Dad. Well, lucky you. I had a front row seat. My hands trembled as I held those receipts, the story of a life given freely, and now dismissed as burden. I pulled out a photo from her graduation. Jessie, in the middle, arms around Margaret and me, smiling like the world was hers. I couldn't have done this without you, Dad. I'll never forget how much you sacrificed. Oh, she forgot all right. Forgotten like a Tesco club card at the bottom of a handbag. And the memories came flooding. Jessie at 19, begging for help with loans. At 25, promising I'd always have a home with her. At 32, skipping Margaret's funeral because Chris had a big promotion. Because nothing honors your dead mother like attending a corporate buffet. And Margaret herself in those last weeks asking, "Where's Jessie today?" And me lying, "She'll come tomorrow, sweetheart. She's just busy. Busy polishing Chris's ambition, apparently." Margaret had seen it. She'd warned me, "You're creating a dependency, Thomas. She needs to learn." And I, ever the doting fool, had answered, "We help family." Well, turns out there's a fine line between family and parasites. Spoiler. I was standing on the wrong side of it. Now I understood. Jessie hadn't learned gratitude. She'd learned entitlement. And now that I needed help, she saw only an obstacle. Something to be moved aside, documented, medicated, erased. I put the graduation photo face down in the drawer. That girl was gone. What stood in her place was a woman planning to fabricate mental decline and sell the house where her mother died. But I wasn't finished. I wasn't confused. I was angry. I picked up Henley's card again. Blue ink, conservative font. Reliable. The sort of man who could dismantle Jessie's scheme with a strongly worded letter and a billable hour. I looked at the clock. midnight. Too late to call. But by morning? Oh, by morning, the first domino would fall. I woke the card still clutched in my hand. 7:30 a.m. Jessie was already clattering in the kitchen, no doubt preparing her daily theater piece. Caring Daughter, Act 3. From my window, I saw Chris loading their car. Errands. Shopping. Perfect. I needed them gone. I made my way downstairs, careful steps, face blank. Jessie looked up from the stove, plastering on a smile so bright it could have powered the national grid. "Good morning, Dad," she chirped too loudly. "I made your favorite breakfast." I nodded, pointed to my ears, played the fool. She grabbed her trusty notepad and scrawled, "Chris and I are going shopping this morning." And all I could think was, "Good. Run along. Buy whatever tat you need. Because while you're out, I'll be sharpening the knives. Will you be okay alone for a few hours?" Jessie scribbled. I wrote back, "Yes, thank you for taking such good care of me." The lie tasted like battery acid, but Jessie lapped it up like a cat with cream. She even kissed my forehead, an act that once meant tenderness, but now felt like being patted on the head before euthanasia. "We'll be back around 3, she said, loudly, as if sheer volume could cure both my hearing and her hypocrisy. "There's soup in the fridge if you get hungry." How touching. Soup, the international sign for we don't trust you not to burn the house down. They left at 10:45. I waited 15 precise minutes. Not 14. Not 16. 15. Because if life has taught me anything, it's that engineers don't take chances, not with bridges, and certainly not with backstabbing children. Phone in hand, I dialed Robert Henley. He answered on the second ring. "Henley Law Office." "Robert, it's Thomas Brooks. I need to change my will immediately." There was a pause, the kind lawyers use to calculate fees. "Thomas, I thought you were having hearing difficulties." "It's complicated. Can you see me today?" "Well, I suppose 11:30, if you're certain." I've never been more certain of anything in my life, Robert. And I was once certain mullets would come back into fashion. The drive downtown took 12 minutes. 12 minutes of sheer exhilaration, the sort of thrill you only get when you're both terrified and smug at the same time. Robert's office was still in that Victorian house on West Alder Street, looking like it had been wallpapered by someone's spinster aunt. Mrs. Patterson, his secretary, blinked at me like I'd risen from the dead. "Mr. Brooks, how wonderful you're feeling better." "Yes," I smiled. "I'm practically ready for the Olympics." Then Robert appeared, tall, graying, the very picture of legal gravitas. His handshake was firm, his eyes worried. "Thomas, are you experiencing confusion? Memory issues?" I looked him square in the face. "Robert, I need you to change my will so that everything goes to Michael. The house, the savings, the lot. And Jessie? Jessie gets pound 1000 for reasons she will understand." Robert's eyebrows climbed Everest, but he wisely refrained from commentary. "That's quite a change. Are you certain? Draw the papers. I'll sign them before your secretary finishes her crossword." And so we did. House, £450,000. Savings, £180,000. Investments, £120,000. Grand total, £750,000 worth of disappointment redirected to Seattle. Michael, who barely phones me, was about to become my favorite child by default. By 1:15 it was done. Witnessed, stamped, filed. I walked out with a sealed envelope, lighter than I'd felt in years. Not because Jesse lost something, but because I finally took something back. Control. At home, I placed the envelope on the kitchen counter, front and center. A time bomb disguised as manila stationery. Then I sat in the living room with my paper, ready to enjoy the show. At 2:45, car door slammed. Voices floated in. Jesse, hope you didn't try to cook anything while we were gone. Yes, darling, because I frequently attempt Michelin star soufflés between episodes of EastEnders. The front door opened. Bags rustled. Then silence. Then, oh, the sweet sound of an ego detonating. A sharp intake of breath. The envelope crackled. Papers shuffled. Silence. Then Jesse, Chris, get in here now. Chris thundered across the kitchen. What's wrong? That old bastard changed his will. I nearly applauded from behind my newspaper. What do you mean, changed it? Jesse read aloud, voice trembling with fury. To Michael Brooks, my son, I leave my entire estate. Her voice cracked. That can't be legal. It's dated today. Today, Chris, while we were out shopping like good little caretakers. There was pacing, shuffling, panic. How much are we talking? Chris demanded. Over £700,000. Gone. Jessie sounded like a gambler watching her last chip slide off the table. To my brother, who hasn't visited in 2 years. We can challenge it. Mental incompetence. Undue influence. Then came the line that nearly broke me. Oh, there's more. To Jessica Brooks Miller, my daughter, I leave the sum of £1000 for reasons she will understand. The kitchen froze. Heavy breathing. Chris repeated slowly. For reasons she will understand. What the hell does that mean? It means he knows. Jesse's voice had gone full Arctic tundra. Chris scoffed. That's impossible. He can't hear a damn thing. We've been talking right in front of him for weeks. Bless. He still believed the pantomime. Then papers slammed down. Explain how a deaf old man managed to get himself to a lawyer's office and rewrite his entire will without us knowing. I kept my breathing steady, the picture of harmless slumber. Every cell in my body begged me to laugh. But no, the game wasn't over. Chris muttered, maybe he's been testing us. Testing you? Oh yes. With the patience of a saint and the wrath of a pensioner. Jesse's voice went shrill. That manipulative son of a... Keep your voice down, Chris hissed. He's in the next room. I don't care if he hears me. If he's been playing games, then the games are over. Her footsteps approached. I let the paper droop, eyes closed. The very image of an old man nodding off mid-crossword. Dad. Jesse cooed sugar-sweet, fists clenched. Dad, are you awake? I blinked up slowly, feigning confusion. Oh, Jesse, did you have a good shopping trip? She searched my face like a detective sniffing out lies. Dad, did you go anywhere today? Go somewhere? No. Why would I go anywhere? You didn't visit anyone? Make any phone calls? I gave her my best tragic smile and touched my ears. Sweetheart, I can't hear well enough for phone calls right now. You know that. Her jaw tightened. Her mask of care slid back into place. Of course. I forgot. And I leaned back, watching her choke on the lie, while the game shifted in my favor. I'm sorry, Dad, Jessie murmured before slinking back into the kitchen. Through the doorway, I heard her hiss to Chris. Either he's the best actor in the world, or we're missing something. Congratulations, love. You finally twigged that Dad might have more brain cells than a pot plant. Chris whispered back. What do you want to do? Call Dr. Henderson. Tell him we need those papers tomorrow, not next week. If Dad's playing games, we'll show him exactly how this game ends. Oh, good. Nothing says responsible adult, quite like medically assassinating your own father because he dared to hold a pen. Jesse's laugh followed, sharp, frozen air. And if he really is confused, then he won't remember signing it anyway, will he? Charming. Dementia as a get-out-of-jail-free card. Hallmark really ought to make a line for that. I sat in my chair, the newspaper trembling, not from fear, but from the sheer effort of stopping myself from cackling. Then the fun began. Jessie stabbed at the phone buttons like she was dialing an exorcist. Her voice was pitched-high dramatic, the kind of performance that might have won her a BAFTA if not for the whole selling your father subplot. Michael, thank God you answered. No, everything is not okay. Dad has completely lost his mind. I angled myself ever so slightly to catch it all. This was Oscar-worthy. He changed his will, Michael. Everything goes to you now. The house, the savings, everything. He's cut me out completely, except for some insulting thousand token. Yes, insulting. Because when you're plotting elder fraud, it's the lack of cash that really stings. Michael's voice rumbled faintly through the receiver, asking questions. Jessie, bless her, went full martyr. I've sacrificed everything to take care of him, Michael. Everything. I moved in here, gave up my own life, and this is how he repays me. Honestly, she should have taken up theater. She'd nailed selfless caregiver. So well, I almost believed her myself. Almost. He's not mentally competent anymore. You have to refuse the inheritance. It should be split fairly between us. Fairly. A word Jessie has always interpreted as me first, everyone else never. There was a pause. Then Michael, apparently, had the audacity to disagree. Jessie's face went redder than a boiled lobster. Good reasons? What good reasons could he possibly have? I'm his daughter. I've been taking care of him while you live your comfortable life in Seattle. Translation. I've been loitering in Dad's kitchen, waiting for him to die, while you've been paying your own bills. Then came the venom. How dare you judge me, Michael? You visit once a year, send a Christmas card, and suddenly you're the expert on Dad's needs. The phone slammed down with all the subtlety of a toddler throwing blocks. Jessie stormed about the kitchen like a Shakespearean villain whose soliloquy had been cut short. Perfect timing for my entrance. I stirred, newspaper drooping, the picture of drowsy innocence. Jessie, was someone on the phone? I thought I heard voices. Her head whipped round, face flushed, eyes wild. But she plastered on that saccharine mask of concern. Oh, Dad. Yes, I was just talking to Michael. I blinked at her, touching my ears. Michael? My son Michael? Is everything all right? You look upset. Her jaw tightened. Dad, we need to talk about your will. About the changes you made today. I gave her the blank stare of a man whose memory was apparently written in disappearing ink. My will? I don't understand. What changes? The frustration boiled beneath her careful expression. Finally she sighed, defeated. Never mind, Dad. It's complicated. Why don't you just rest? Oh, if you're sure everything's all right. I pushed myself to my feet, tottering like a fragile relic. I think I'll go lie down. All this excitement's worn me out. She bought it. She always buys it. Upstairs, door closed, I shed the old man act faster than you can say retirement home brochure. Out came the secret weapon, my hidden mobile. Jessie didn't even know it existed. I dialed Michael's number from memory. Hello? His voice was cautious. Michael, it's Dad. There was a stunned pause. Dad? Jessie said you were having hearing problems. How are you calling me? Son, sit down. What I'm about to tell you will shock you, but I need it kept between us. Promise. Of course, Dad. What's going on? I took a breath. Michael, I can hear every word perfectly. My hearing came back 3 days ago, but I didn't tell Jessie because of what I discovered. Silence. Then what do you mean? The first thing I heard when I came home was Jessie calling me that old burden. She and Chris were plotting to dump me in a nursing home and sell the house for whitefish property. Your sister, my darling girl, turned Bond villain before my very ears. Michael inhaled sharply. Dad, are you absolutely certain? Son, they even have a doctor in on it. Dr. Henderson. He's agreed to forge evaluations. By Friday, I'd have been officially labeled a drooling incompetent. Imagine that. Me drooling. The line went quiet. I thought I'd lost him. Michael, are you there? I'm here, Dad. Processing. That phone call Jessie just made. She was trying to get me to refuse the inheritance, wasn't she? That's exactly what she was doing. She wants you to think I've gone senile. That way, she still wins. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have visited more. You've got your own family. I understood. But now I need your help. Downstairs, Jessie's voice rose again, plotting urgent. Like rats scratching inside the walls. Michael, I whispered, steady, calm, resolute. They're moving faster than I expected. Henderson confirmed Friday morning. They're accelerating the timeline. And son, I allowed myself the smallest smile. This time I'll be ready. Dad, I feel sick, Michael whispered, voice heavy with the guilt of a man who's only just realized his sister is a Bond villain without the charm. All those years you supported her, paid for her wedding, helped with her loans, and this is how she repays you. Yes, son. It turns out gratitude has an expiry date, and Jessie's went off about 10 years ago. Your mother always saw through Jessie's act, I said, thinking of Margaret, who had the uncanny ability to spot a con at 50 paces. Should have listened to her more. Should have married her sister, really. Michael asked, do you want me to come? I can take Friday off. Not yet. When Jessie calls you back, and she will, because desperation is her cardio, I want you to play along. Tell her you're concerned about my mental state. Maybe mention you're thinking of visiting this weekend. He hesitated. You want me to lie to her? No, son. I want you to give her just enough rope to knit herself a noose, and then wonder why it itches. Trust me, she'll make it convincing all by herself. From downstairs came urgent voices, carried obligingly up the heating vent like God himself wanted me in on the gossip. Jessie, Dr. Henderson confirmed Friday at 10. He'll do the evaluation at the house. Oh, splendid. Nothing like scheduling your parents' fake dementia exam between brunch and Pilates. Chris chimed in. What if the old man refuses to cooperate? Don't worry, Sonny, if I don't cooperate, you'll just mark me down as confused. It's like a restaurant comment card. Service was slow, food was cold. Dad thinks the year is 1972. Michael's having doubts, Jessie bragged, smug as a cat that thinks it's hidden the dead mouse under the sofa. I planted the seeds tonight. If I call him tomorrow with more, he might support Dad being evaluated. I returned to the phone. Michael, did you hear any of that? Enough. Dad, they're planning to have you declared incompetent. Yes, Friday morning. 10 sharp. Isn't it thoughtful they keep me in the loop by yelling it through the vents? Michael's voice hardened. We can't let that happen. No, we can't. But here's the plan. When Jessie calls tomorrow, act worried. Tell her an evaluation sounds reasonable. I don't like lying to family, he muttered. She stopped being family the minute she tried to sell me with the furniture. Son, she's counting on your decency. Don't hand her the knife, she's already sharpening. There was a pause, then a sigh. You're right. What else? Keep playing along until I give you the signal. And document everything. Every manipulation, every lie. We'll need it. What are you planning, Dad? I glanced at Margaret's jeweler box, our wedding photo. The ghosts of a life worth keeping. I'm planning to remind your sister that she's been underestimating me. She thinks she's dealing with a confused old man. Tomorrow she'll learn she's actually been auditioning for my revenge drama. Michael swallowed. Be careful, Dad. If she's desperate enough for fraud, who knows what else? Oh, don't worry, son. I survived 30 years as a construction engineer and 5 years of grief. I can handle one greedy daughter and her part-time husband. After we hung up, I sat in the dark, listening to their mutiny downstairs. Jessie and Chris thought they had the upper hand. Pity neither of them had considered the vents were basically surround sound. Through the blinds, I watched them load shopping bags into their Ford Escape, the chariot of choice for middle-class betrayal. Jessie flapped at her phone. Chris checked his watch like a man timing his own failure. We'll be back by 2 p.m. Don't forget Henderson's coming at 10. Chris shouted, as if I couldn't hear him. Then Jessie, with that syrupy voice that should be bottled and sold as poison. Dad, we're going shopping. Back soon. Yes, darling. Do pick me up a coffin while you're out. Apparently, I'll need one by Friday. When their car vanished, I smiled. 3 hours. More than enough time to prepare their farewell gift. I moved through the house, inspecting Jesse's kingdom. Drawers spilling with silk blouses and designer jeans, bought with my money. Receipts on the nightstand, my address stamped proudly, as if identity theft were a family crest. Chris's side of the invasion was equally uninspiring. 3 business suits, a laptop, gadgets I couldn't even identify, and a golf bag worth more than a month's groceries. Nothing screams provider, like toys you can't afford. From the basement, I retrieved 2 leather suitcases. Once, they'd carried happy memories to Yellowstone. Today, they'd carry Jesse and Chris's dreams straight to the curb. I packed with the precision of an architect drawing blueprints. Jesse's wedding dress, her photo albums I'd bankrolled, the jewelry I'd given her, all neatly folded into one case. Chris's electronics, his precious golf kit, his business cards from jobs that evaporated quicker than his ambition, into the other. Margaret's voice echoed in my memory. That girl takes everything you give her and asks for more. When will it be enough, Thomas? Never, I said aloud. It will never be enough. I carried the suitcases to the living room, set them before the sofa like twin tombstones. Silent, heavy accusations in Italian leather. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. How are you holding up, Dad? Still planning for this afternoon? I typed back, everything ready. Wish me luck. His reply was quick. You've got this. She deserves everything that's coming. I settled into my recliner, paper-propped, eyes on the front door. The living room looked picture-perfect. Margaret's china cabinet, family photos on the mantel, and those 2 suitcases gleaming in the center like the world's most passive-aggressive art installation. At 1:45, the familiar crunch of tires. Car door slammed. Jesse's laugh drifted in, sharp, fake, practiced. Shopping bags rustled like plastic confetti, marking the parade of their hubris. The key turned in the lock. Jesse's voice mid-sentence. I think we got everything for Tomor. Then silence. The thud of bags hitting the floor echoed like gunshots. Chris's voice, sharp with confusion. What the hell? I lowered the paper, smiled, and thought, showtime. Jesse, are these our suitcases? Her footsteps came pelting across the floor like a panicked spaniel, breathing all frantic and uneven. Oh no, he's found the luggage. Dad, what is this? She shrieked, voice climbing like a fire alarm nobody asked for. I kept my newspaper raised, perfectly still. The picture of serenity. The old man absorbed in the Times, while his darling daughter had a breakdown over Samsonite. Honestly, I was savoring every second. Retirement never tasted so sweet. And then something extraordinary. Jesse's voice shifted. Genuine excitement, like she'd just been told Netflix was waiving the subscription fee. Oh my God, Chris, he's finally packed. You mean the old man's actually leaving? Chris jumped straight in, bless him, voice practically skipping. I can't believe it. Finally. Jesse's laugh bubbled out like champagne at a funeral. He's going to Sunset Manor. We won't even need Dr. Henderson. This is perfect. Perfect. My supposed demise, perfect. Imagine celebrating your father's fictional dementia like it's Black Friday at John Lewis. Chris was pacing, now, practically levitating. We can start renovations next week. Call the bloke in Whitefish. 700 grand. We're finally going to be free. Free. They actually said it like they'd been prisoners in Alcatraz, not freeloaders with free Wi-Fi, free meals, and free rent. I slowly lowered my newspaper and looked at them over the edge, the way a lion regards tourists who've just stepped out of the Jeep. No, sweetheart, I said, voice calm as a pond. You're leaving my house. Jesse froze. Smile snapped off like a light bulb blowing. Face paler than skimmed milk. Dad, did you hear me? She whispered, like we'd just discovered witchcraft. Chris staggered back, wide-eyed. Thomas, how long have you been able to hear? I stood up, joints suddenly miraculous, as if the sheer power of spite had lubricated them. Every word since I got home 3 days ago. Jesse's hand shot to her mouth. You heard everything? Yes, I said, every single gem about me being an old burden. Every chat about flogging the house. Every brainstorm about having me declared insane. Chris flushed redder than a sunburnt tourist. We were just frustrated, Thomas. We didn't mean. I cut him off. You meant every syllable. Don't worry. I've had enough years of marriage to know the difference between frustration and full-blown villain monologue. Jessie's eyes welled with tears. Convenient, really. Like she kept them on tap. Dad, we can explain. We were worried about you. We thought you needed more care than we could give. Oh yes, I nodded. Because nothing says loving care like penciling in my death date between kitchen renovations and a cheeky inheritance. I turned to Chris. You calculated $700,000 like it was pocket change. That was his idea. Jessie squeaked, instantly throwing him under the bus. Olympic-level betrayal. I stared at her, calm as stone. You called me a burden, Jessica. In my own house. Chris tried bravado, puffing up. You can't just kick us out. We've nowhere to go. We gave up our flat for you. No, I corrected gently. You gave up your flat because you couldn't afford it. Don't romanticize it. This isn't Les Miserables. Jessie collapsed theatrically onto her knees, clutching my arm like we were in some bad soap opera. Please, Dad. I'm your daughter. I made a mistake, but I love you. I looked down at her, this woman who once swore she'd never forget my sacrifices, now crying because the gravy train had derailed. If you loved me, Jessica, you wouldn't have called me a burden. You wouldn't have plotted my sectioning. And you certainly wouldn't have cheered when you thought I was off to rot in Sunset Manor. I pointed at the suitcases. Everything you brought, everything you leached, is packed. More than you deserve. Cue the waterworks. Snot, tears, the full flood. Dad, you're breaking my heart. I'm your little girl. I almost laughed. Little girl. Yes, 30-something, manipulative, emotionally bankrupt, but sure, Daddy's princess. Then she went too far. Mom would be devastated seeing you treat me like this. Ah, the nuclear option. Dragging the dead wife into it. I leaned in, voice sharp as glass. Your mother warned me about you. Said you only came around when you needed something. Jessie froze. She never said that. She did, I replied. After you asked me for $5,000 for your anniversary cruise. While she was in hospice. Her mouth opened, closed, like a fish gasping for air. Chris tried damage control. Thomas, we all made mistakes. But we're family. We can fix this. Yes, Dad. Jessie switched gears instantly. Tears gone, voice syrupy. We'll cancel Henderson. We'll take care of you. We'll change. I gave her the kind of look one usually reserves for dodgy car salesmen. You've shown me who you are. And I believe you. Chris snapped, mask slipping. You can't just throw us out like garbage. We've got legal rights. I smiled. No, you don't. You're not tenants. You're not inheritors. You're squatters with better lighting. Chris jabbed a finger. We'll contest the will. Prove you're insane. No sane man disinherits his daughter. Oh, try it, I said smoothly. My solicitor has recordings of everything. Of course, no such recordings existed. But watching their faces collapse was almost better than having the tapes. Jessie blanched. Recordings? Dad, please. We were stressed. We didn't mean. You meant every decimal point of my net worth. You planned my funeral before I'd finished my porridge. Chris was practically vibrating. Where are we supposed to go? We've no money. Not my problem anymore, I replied, calm as a monk. Jessie tried one last trick, wheedling like a 6-year-old angling for a pony. Dad, I sacrificed everything for you. I loved Mum just as much as you. Really, I cut in. Because you missed her funeral. For Chris's work due in Denver. Said Mum would have wanted him to attend. How touching. Jessie faltered. You visited her twice in her last month, I continued, voice steady. While I was there every day, watching her ask where her daughter was. I couldn't handle it, Jessie whispered. But you could handle scheming to put me in a care home and sell the house she died in. And then, finally, the mask slipped. Her face hardened, crocodile tears dried, and the caring daughter act crumbled. At last, the real Jessie. Fine, Jessie said, standing up, brushing off her knees like she'd just lost a netball match. We'll leave. But you'll regret this, Dad. You'll be all alone. I looked at her, deadpan. I've been alone for 3 years, Jessica. At least now, I won't have to pretend I'm not. Chris yanked a suitcase with a kind of aggression usually reserved for professional wrestlers. This is insane. You're throwing away your own family. No, I said, watching them struggle with luggage they bought on my credit card. You threw away family when you decided I was a little more than a speed bump between you and your inheritance. Jessie grabbed the other suitcase, face twisted like she'd bitten into a lemon. You'll see, Dad. You'll see what it's like to be really alone. Yes, I said, I'm positively trembling at the thought of peace and quiet. They lumbered towards the front door, their overpriced belongings dragging them down like anchors of irony. At the threshold, Jessie turned for one last melodramatic flourish. If you change your mind. I won't, I cut her off. And don't call me asking for money. The door slammed with the finality of a church bell, announcing the death of their freeloading residency. I wandered to the window and watched the great escape unfold. Chris wrestled with the boot of their Ford Escape, swearing every time something didn't fit. Jessie sat in the passenger seat, staring ahead like a woman auditioning for Cold Fury, the musical. Eventually, the doors slammed, the engine coughed to life, and the car crawled off into the distance. I kept watching long after their taillights vanished, savoring the silence like a vintage whiskey. And what silence it was! Not the oppressive hush of deafness. Not the tense quiet of two snakes hissing behind your back. No, this was peace. Actual uncut peace. The house seemed to exhale. 3 years of stress bleeding out of the walls. I walked through each room like a man touring a newly acquired museum. The bathroom? Free of Jessie's luxury moisturizers. The living room? Liberated from Chris's golf magazines, which I suspect he never actually read. The guest bedroom? Roomy, clean, no longer resembling the aftermath of a Primark explosion. In the kitchen, I found their shopping bags, the little celebration stockpile they'd abandoned when they discovered the suitcases. I tossed them straight into the bin. Whatever they'd bought to toast my downfall could rot along with the rest of their plans. And then I sat, in my recliner, in my living room, in my house. And for the first time since Margaret's death, I felt it, contentment. No one plotting my early admission to a care home. No one calculating my net worth between bites of toast. No one treating me like an inconvenient obstacle on the motorway to Whitefish. Alone? Yes. But gloriously, deliciously free. My phone buzzed. Michael. The good child. Dad, how did it go? Are you okay? They're gone, I said simply. How are you feeling? I actually paused. Relief? Certainly. Vindication? Absolutely. But mostly, I felt lighter. As if I'd been lugging a fridge on my back for years without noticing. Free, I said. For the first time since your mom died. I'm proud of you, Dad, Michael said. Mom would be proud too. She would. And yes, maybe I should have listened to her warnings about Jessie years ago. But love blinds you, doesn't it? Especially when it's your own child holding the knife. Michael's voice softened. You gave her every chance, Dad. That's not weakness. That's love. We talked for 20 minutes. He promised to bring the kids soon. They should know their grandfather, he said. The real one. When we hung up, I made myself scrambled eggs and toast. Nothing fancy. But do you know what made it perfect? Nobody complained. Nobody sneered at the meal. Nobody asked how much it cost or speculated when I'd be too senile to hold a spatula. Just me, my dinner, and the sunset. Bliss. I thought of Margaret. How she used to say, you deserve better than that treatment, Thomas. She'd been right, of course. She always was. I just hadn't wanted to admit my daughter was that treatment. After dinner, I wandered the house again, this time really seeing it. The family photos on the mantelpiece told a story. Michael and the grandkids. Margaret and me on anniversaries. Jessie, back when she was young enough to love us for who we were, not what we had. I removed those photos, not out of cruelty, but because I wanted to remember her smile without the aftertaste of betrayal. The mantel looked cleaner without the lies. In my study, I pulled out a legal pad, wrote a list, removed Jessie as emergency contact, update directives, ring old friends, plan a trip to see Michael and the kids. For the first time in years, I was writing a future instead of scribbling through a slow death. Margaret used to say, "Some people mistake kindness for weakness. But when you stop giving it to those who don't deserve it, that's wisdom." At last I understood. The house was quiet. My breathing steady. No footsteps creeping, no whispered schemes in the kitchen. Just me, a man at peace in his own home. Tomorrow I'd call Henley, start the paperwork. But tonight, I'd sleep better than I had in years. Because Jesse had taught me the most valuable lesson of all. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who doesn't cheer when they think you're finally finished.